Be a thermostat, not a thermometer. A thermometer, the only function of a thermometer, it just reacts to the environment. That's all it does. It just reacts. And you're not going to have any kind of quality of life if you're just reacting to everything. But a thermostat doesn't do that. It gauges the environment, it knows what's going on, but it sets the temperature, and then the environment is forced to react to it.
Welcome to the Spartan Up podcast with Joe De Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Race.
We are talking about overcoming obstacles. The same way we teach people to get over obstacles on the course, we will teach you here on the Spartan Up podcast to get over obstacles in your mind.
Today, Joe De Sena talks with the ultimate brain hacker, Jim Kwik, to bring you tips and tactics for better brain function. How do exercise, diet, struggle, morning routines all affect your mind? This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by True Form Runner. Conquer your next race with a complete training solution from Spartan and True Form. The Spartan True Form trainer will redefine your running, improve your form, and reduce injury. Save 10% with the code SPARTAN10 at trueformrunner.com/Spartan. That's trueformrunner.com/Spartan.
We are here for Spartan Up podcast with a guy I've been trying to get on this podcast for, God, it's got to be 3 or 4 years now, Jim Kwik.
It's good to be here, buddy.
You're awesome, by the way. We met quite a while ago. You came up, you were like elusive and secretive, and we shook hands, we got to know each other, and then I found out more about you, and I was like, I got to meet that guy again. And then you were like, went into the darkness, and I couldn't get with you. So I'm glad we're finally here.
I've been carrying around this all.
Nice.
Been carrying around my my kettlebell all week, just in anticipation to have this conversation. So thanks for having me.
I love it. You're an expert in learning, in learning how to learn. And tell me where I screw up. Tell me what you're an expert in.
As a personal trainer, makes your body stronger, more flexible, give you greater endurance, vitality, agility, pliability. I want your mental muscles to be the same. I want your focus to be stronger. I want your memory to be sharper. I want your thinking to be more flexible, more agile. I want you to have more mental endurance and vitality. So I'm like a personal trainer for the brain. And my specialty, my recent book, Limitless, the subtitle really describes what I do. It's upgrade your brain, learn anything faster, and unlock your exceptional life. I believe people upgrade their technology, like their phones, their apps, their computers, more than they upgrade the most important tool in technology, which is the human brain. And so that's what I'm all about.
So I don't need a brain transplant. You could actually work online?
Yeah, we could get you to the mental gym, if you will. And I'm a big fan, by the way, of your work. And so I'm excited to have you on my my podcast as well.
We're going to do it. So here's some things. Let's go down this road. I have 4 children. My wife and I have 4 children. And we have, I'm constantly trying to tweak the process so that they turn out okay, better than me, more like my wife. And so I make them do hard things and work out every morning. Got to learn Mandarin every single day, Mandarin. I believe in consistency. And everybody in the family and extended family, even neighbors, it seeps out into the neighborhood, think I'm nuts. But my belief is, and this is and by the way, you could push back. Maybe I had it all wrong. My belief is the human body is mostly water. The brain is sitting inside this vessel of water. And if we're doing hard stuff and sweating and eating healthy and getting after it, the brain's just going to be functioning better.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
It's a good working theory for sure. And you have the results to prove it. And so, when I was writing this book, not only is it based on the latest neuroscience applied to cognitive performance and mental fitness, but also 28 years of just field testing this. And what we know is we've discovered more about the human brain in the past 10 years than the previous 1,000 years combined. And one of the things that we understand now is that we're grossly underestimating our own capabilities, that the human brain, which is part of the human body, is the ultimate adaptation machine. When it's put under stress, when it's put under challenge, it changes in order to be able to adapt, to be able to survive, and to be able to thrive in these environments. And so, they know this from working with children, giving them more stimulus. It forces neuroplasticity, which is the connection of these brain cells. And I think it's also building not only that growth, but it's building grit, which is so important nowadays, to have this mindset of not only growth where things are not fixed, like your shoe size, your intelligence, your potential, your power, if you will, your abilities, but it's also building your ability, your resilience to face hard times. I believe that if I just got out of an ice bath myself after my morning run, and I just feel like I grew up in the Northeast. I am in the Northeast like you are, and I despise the cold. I despise it. Yet I do it because I think if you just do the easy things in life, procrastinate, put things off, just binge watch whatever you're watching on the couch, then life gets very difficult. But if you do the difficult things in life, life gets a lot easier. And I think that's part of our journey. The ultimate quest that we're all on is to be able to realize, reveal our fullest potential. And I think it's, I've never been one to just kind of sit back, maybe coming from immigrant parents, growing up here, didn't have any money. My dad came here when I was 13. He lost both his parents. They couldn't afford to feed him. Came out to the United States to live with his aunt. My mom lived in the back of a laundromat that she worked at, didn't speak the language, didn't have money, no education, no contacts. And, so I was working as I was mowing lawns when I was like 8, 9 years old, and paper routes and just doing hard labor. And it's just, my parents, they're not, like extraordinary in any of those ways. They're not the most health conscious, most spiritual, financially abundant, but they're just really good people. And they taught us I believe like in our integrity, our character is measured by the distance between like what we say and what we do. And so many people online, it's not about promising, it's about proving. It's not about saying, it's about showing. And what I do is I document what I've done to overcome my learning disabilities. I had 3 traumatic brain injuries before the age of 12. I had very poor focus. I was put in special classes. It took me 3 years longer to learn how to read. My teachers would have been surprised if I read a book, much less wrote a book. When I was 9 years old, I was slowing down the entire class, being bullied and teased because of it. I didn't understand the lessons, and the teacher pointed to me to come to my defense. But all I remember her saying was, that's the boy with a broken brain. And that label became my limit. And we have to be very careful. Adults have to be very careful with their words, because they become a child's internal words. Every single time I wasn't picked for sports, which was all the time. Every time I did badly on tests, which was all the time, I would always say, oh, it's because I have the broken brain. And so, this book, my life's work, the past 3 decades, has been my inspiration. Really was my desperation. I grew up with all these limits, and I want to show people really how powerful they are. And I believe the sky is not the limit. Really, it's our mind is the limit. There's no limit to our determination, to our ability to solve problems, no limit to our creativity, our imagination, our ability to persevere. And, I make it a study to study individuals like yourself, who perform extraordinary and able to inspire people to do the same.
And also I leap tall buildings. You nailed it, because I was going to go into your childhood. I'm always curious, like, how did Jim turn out to be so great? How did his parents do it? But I think you nailed it. You checked all the boxes, which is what I've been saying, which is hard is good. Like, you had a hard childhood. And would you agree that bubble wrapped and soft is bad?
I mean, it's really what your outcome is. I'm not one personally, my personal stance is I'm not one to judge anybody how their life is. In my book, I open with a quote from a French philosopher that says, life is the C between B and D. Life is C between B and D. B stands for birth, D stands for death, C stands for choice. And I think our life is the sum total of all the choices we've made up to this point. And I believe difficult times, especially now, these difficult times can define us. These difficult times can diminish us, because a lot of people are shrinking, or these difficult times can develop us. Ultimately, we decide. And so for me, my choice and my preference has always been, I feel like people grossly underestimating their own capabilities more than they fall short. And what lights me up is seeing people overcome what they thought was impossible. Like, Limitless for me is not about being perfect. Limitless for me is about progressing and advancing beyond what you currently believe is possible. And part of that comes from exerting force, for exerting pressure and doing difficult things, as you say. I personally don't adopt the philosophy of just making things easy for people, because I think it's a disservice for people, because life has challenges. That's the one thing about life. If first anybody who doesn't have any problems, they're not alive.
Maybe C between B and D. Maybe C stands for challenges.
Yeah, exactly. And then sometimes life provides those challenges. And I think it's also important not to wait for those challenges to come up, to challenge ourselves every single day, so we are stronger. All my heroes growing up, watching whether it's television or movies, the size of the hero is determined by the size of the villain, right? If it wasn't, Drago in Rocky, or if it wasn't like all these big, in the Matrix or whatever it happens to be, if they weren't, Darth Vader wasn't so intimidating, then Luke wouldn't have to be able to step up and be that better version of himself. I was talking to a couple, parents, and they were taking their swing set out from the backyard because they don't want their kids to fall. And I was just like, wow, like they're, and this is coming from someone who had 3 traumatic brain injuries before the age of 12. So I understand, like, you protect your brain. It's very resilient, but it can also be fragile. But you want them to fall, because it's the getting up that makes you stronger, right? It's kind of corny, but it's true. We're talking about transformation. The ultimate symbol for transformation for me is a butterfly. But while the beauty is in the butterfly, the growth happens in the cocoon, right? If a child, finds a caterpillar, puts it into a jar, feeds it, and then one day it spins a cocoon around itself, and then you see it trying to struggle, and maybe the little boy runs in, doesn't want to see the creature struggle, grabs a scissors and opens it up, the hole, then that caterpillar will not come out as a butterfly. It'll kind of look like a butterfly, but it'll look shriveled up, and its wings will be shriveled, and its body will be very plump and swollen, because it's the force of it getting through that tiny hole, by going through that pressure, that challenge, that actually pushes the fluids into its wings, that allows its wings to be nourished and grow stronger so it could fly. So it's a process of nature, right? But if it doesn't have to go through that difficult time, it will die. And
you are literally putting science behind all Joe's crazy methods, like all this crazy stuff that I've been doing for 20 years, that parents and people are screaming at me, my wife and my kids, even my kids say to my wife, I'm in the wrong family. Why'd you marry him? And now I know, like, they wouldn't be butterflies if I wasn't doing this.
Exactly. And the people, just think about also, and again, it's human choice, people determining how they're going to raise their kids, and the kids, having responsibility. I think if I can instill one thing into a child, or even looking at my 8-year-old self who is suffering, is, you are 100% responsible for your life. You are 100% responsible for your life. I remember I got to introduce 2 of my modern day superheroes together. They wanted to meet each other, so I took them out to dinner. It was Richard Branson and Stan Lee. I asked Stan, who's your favorite superhero? You made the X-Men, you made, Iron, all, Avengers and Spider-Man. He said, Iron Man is my favorite. He said, Jim, who's your favorite? And he had this big Spider-Man tie posted on Instagram. I was like, Spider-Man. And without a pause, he goes, with great power comes great responsibility. And I don't know, because of my head trauma, sometimes when I read or I hear things, I reverse it. And I heard something different. I was like, Sam, you're right. With great power comes great responsibility. You have power, you have responsibility to wield it, to serve, support, and so on. And but the opposite is also true. With great responsibility comes great power. When we take responsibility for something, we have great power to make things better. It's challenging, though, when sometimes they're individuals or a part of culture that are also trying to not have responsibility, not take on that extra burden, if you will. But I think that responsibility gives you freedom, right? When we take responsibility and not blame somebody else or make excuses. For me, excuses are just useless, because it just wastes energy. You cannot, here's a message for your listeners. I'm sure they can appreciate it, or I wrote about it in my book. You cannot be upset by the results and rewards you're not getting from the work you don't do. you just, I mean, in a world sometimes where people feel entitled to just everything, it's just maybe growing up where we didn't have a whole lot. And I know people had a lot worse, certainly than we did. It's just, you can't be upset by results you're not getting from the work you didn't do. And I think teaching children personal responsibility and how you get pride in yourself, it comes from effort. Like the people that I know that were given everything, those aren't people who never had to work for anything. They don't have to develop abilities, character, discipline, the things that, you need to be successful. And those aren't people I love, honestly, hanging out with.
You speak much more eloquent than me. You look better. You're smarter, but we're so aligned.
Okay, we're going to be right back to that episode. But first, Johnny, question for you. You're a race director. You're around racers all the time. You're around the podium. What do you think's the one obstacle that people aren't training that much for?
You know what? We're standing on treadmill, so it's obviously going to say, but it's running. No, it really is.
It is.
Everyone's training for obstacles, which is great. Spartan race is all about obstacles, but you know what's actually really all about? It's about running between those obstacles.
Yeah.
So you can climb the rope faster, you can throw the spear better, but if you're not running fast and well, you're never going to become a better racer. The key there is not just the fast. We got a lot of people that are running really fast, but very few people actually learn how to run.
Right.
And the great thing with this machine, this true form that I absolutely love about this machine, it forces you to run properly. It's human powered. So if I'm just standing here, it's not moving. A normal treadmill, it starts moving for me, and all I have to do is keep up with it.
Right.
And if I'm running poorly, I just keep running poorly, and it keeps moving, right?
Right, and this one's like chest up, you find your center of balance, and then it like really intuitively and organically helps guide where your body should be.
Yeah, 100%.
And, I mean, we all have friends and stuff that have got injured running, too much impact, improper foot placement. Like, it's not an uncommon thing that we see amongst athletes, and it seems it's like one of those things that you don't think about till you think about it, and it's like, this obviously makes sense.
And traditionally, the way people train for running is they run more. Everyone thinks practice makes perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. Imperfect practice makes injury. So if you want to learn how to run perfectly, run properly, go to trueformrunner.com. They have an incredible program. It's going to get you a machine like this, takes 6 feet of your living room, looks great. It's going to give you a running program that teaches you how to run. They're going to do a gait analysis. You're going to get daily workouts. They're even going to throw in a free Spartan race for a very low monthly fee. You want to become a better runner, a better Spartan racer? Trueformrunner.com.
Yeah, awesome. Find your true form, and now let's get back to this episode.
You speak much more eloquent than me. You look better. You're smarter, but we're so aligned. I mean, I just can't say it as eloquently, right? I make them do burpees, crawl into barbed wire. But this morning I was filming for this kids camp we held this summer because all the races are canceled around the world. I got bored. I invited 20 kids to the farm, and I put these kids through hell. Jim, whatever you think hell is, multiply it by 100. Okay. Ice cold water, carrying rocks up and down the mountain, waking up 5, 4, 3 a.m., thousands of push-ups, thousands of leg raises, hundreds of rope climbs, just limited amounts of food, sleep deprivation, anything you can. And the parents were furious, right? Because the kids, unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize that night they were texting the parents, lie to Joe, you got to get us out of here. You got to break us out of here. This is like prison camp. And ultimately the kids finished, and they were that butterfly. They were transformed, but they did the work, right? There were no excuses. All the boxes you're checking when you go through what you're explaining, your book. One of the poems we had them memorize was Apollinaire. Come to the edge. No, we don't want to come to the edge because we may fall. No, we don't want to come to the edge, we may fall. They came to the edge, he pushed them, and they flew. Mm-hmm. Right? And literally these kids flew. They became limitless when it was over because they used to think they had this much capability. When we stretched the rubber band so much after 14 days that they became unstoppable.
Yeah. And that take on those characteristics in their life, not only in school, but beyond, right? Because how they've trained that's how you end up doing everything in your life. Here's the other thing that, when we're looking at neuroscience, whatever we repeatedly do, we get better at, right? Whatever we're reinforcing, we get more of all the time. And some people, we're always practicing. Neurologically, it's impossible to say anything or do anything and not condition our nervous system for that, where we get wired for it. And so, the challenge is are we practicing, being angry, when we're faced with stress? Or are we practicing just giving up all the time? Or are we practicing, any of those things? We're always practicing. And, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that if we are training things like grit, train like things like discipline, following through with things to completion, doing what you say you're going to do, that your life is going to show up differently than people who don't exercise those same muscles.
Is it important? Like, is your brain, I don't know if you've done studies on this or not, but is your brain going to work better if you're eating healthier, if you're exercising more? Like, because there's a lot of people that are academic and cerebral that just kind of push exercise to the side. Those are for the jocks.
Right.
Right.
It's interesting because, taking the message and separating it from the messenger also as well, that some people know what to do, but they don't do what they know. Some people can intellectualize knowing that when you move, you create brain-derived neurotropic factors, BDNF, very fancy scientific words, but it's basically fertilizer for your brain, for your children's brain, for any human brain. When you move, as the body moves, your brain grooves. We know without a doubt that physical activity is good for your mental prowess, right? What's good for your heart's going to be good for your head. More blood flow, more oxygen, getting out in nature. And some people could do studies about that, but they're not living that same information, right? Because they're sitting in an ivory tower or, wearing their lab coat, but then they just go out and then they just, drink the processed sodas and foods and everything else like that. I would say diet, exercise, sleep, everything that's going to be good for the human body is going to be good for the human brain, as your brain is part of your body. Your brain is only 2% of your body mass, but it requires 20% of the nutrients also as well. So there's a whole area of science called neuronutrition, but exercise is paramount without a doubt. And we know people, even through like the Bill Gates, the Steve Jobs, they would do walking meetings. They wouldn't want to sit in a stale boardroom. They know that, for you, if your body is stuck and it's rigid, you're going to have rigid thinking, right? When you move around, you're more creative. We know that studies have been done that when somebody is on an elliptical or they're doing a brisk walk and they're listening to an audiobook or one of our podcasts, that they're going to actually retain and understand the information better and longer also as well. So it is without a doubt. I mean, we live in a very sedentary lifestyle. We're behind screens all the time. They say sitting is the new smoking. And, I'm a big advocate for moving all the time, not just doing your Pilates or cross, whatever, 3 days a week, but moving all the time. Because the number one reason, let's get down to the biology of it, the number one reason all of us have a human brain, the number one function is to control our movement. And it's not just a brain-body connection. There's a body-brain, mind connection, if you will. It works both ways. It's not just a one-way road. And so as your body moves, even little things. I read a study recently that jugglers, in a study at Oxford University, that just the act of learning how to juggle, and challenging yourself like that builds more white matter in your brain. So what could actually something even more complex the effect have also as well. But just like if you want to grow a muscle, you have novelty, nutrition, and rest. And same thing with your mental muscles. You have to give it novelty. You work it out. You learn something new. You give it nutrition to feed that, and then you rest so that you can recover. Because when you sleep, you consolidate short to long-term memory. When you sleep, you clean out plaque that leads to that beta amyloid plaque that leads to Alzheimer's and dementia. And we know people who are physically more vibrant and active, they sleep better also as well. So everything is connected.
If you could snap your fingers, you had all the time in the world, you didn't have to write books or be like New York Times bestseller or anything. You could do anything. What would the brain day look like?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, it always starts the night before by getting a good night's sleep. For me, I talk about in my book, I reveal that I've had very severe sleep challenges. For 5 years, I slept 90 minutes to 2 hours a night in total, not even in complete, without uninterrupted. And I got misdiagnosed, but when I went in for a sleep study, I have severe obstructive sleep apnea. And so that was my kryptonite, right? I stopped breathing 214 times a night. Every single time episode counts for at least 10 seconds. and then I'm slowly getting it back up because it was conditioned. Also, I travel, I speak to 250,000 people a year. You and I met at an event that we were participating in. I met 3 continents in 1 week. So time zones and not sleeping in my own bed and jet lag, all that really enhanced it. Plus my learning difficulties in high school and college. I would pull all these all-nighters, so I was in the habit. Remember, whatever you're practicing, you're getting better at. So my sleep hygiene was very poor. And that was my kryptonite. So going back to that, I really prioritize my sleep now, especially with everything going on where I don't have to get on a plane. That starts the night before. So I have a whole, 1 hour nighttime routine to put me to sleep. Also, when I wake up, the most popular episode I did on my podcast, you could just search Jim Kwik morning routine. Everybody has their morning routine. For me, it's about getting my brain right. And so some of the things I'll just rapid fire share with you that I do for just the first hour of the day. We've all heard if you want to win the day, you got to win that first hour. For me, it's not a lot of time consuming activities. Number one, I would say that I remember my dreams. So I teach 6 steps on how to remember your dreams. People don't realize we spend about 20 years of our life sleeping, about 3 to 5 total years dreaming. And when you are working throughout the day or learning as a child throughout the day, your brain doesn't shut off at night. It's actually more active. It's been shown. And what is it doing? It's consolidating long-term memories. It's coming up with solutions. And usually it happens in our dream state, that REM state. Did you know Mary Shelley came up with Frankenstein in her dream? Paul McCartney came up with Song Yesterday in his dream. Elias Howe creating a sewing machine in his dream. He actually was dreamt he was being chased by these people, and they had spears, and he saw in his dream where the hole was in the spear, which helped him overcome this challenge he had with the needle for the sewing machine and all this stuff. A chemist came out with the periodic table in his dream. Jack Nicklaus was in a slump shooting high 70s, and he had a dream where he changed his grip and then shot 65 the next day. So the first thing, but most people forget their dreams. So 6 steps to remembering your dreams very easily in the morning. Next thing I do as I make my bed, and we've all seen these videos, you start your day with excellence. Excellence is a habit like anything else. Take 2 minutes, just like they do in the military, with angles and centimeters, because you start your day with success. Takes very little time, but also your brain loves a clean environment also as well. And so that's wonderful. And also you're training yourself to be excellent throughout the day, plus coming back full circle to success. Another thing I do is I hydrate. We can lose up to you mentioned our bodies are water, mostly water, 75-80% water. So is your brain. We can lose up to 1 pound of water a night, just respiration, perspiration. And so just staying hydrated will boost your reaction time and your thinking speed 30%. 30%, just staying hydrated. So I'll do that. I'll take my, my probiotics, because you have a second brain, which is your gut also. Immediately right there, there was a study done at Appalachian State University saying when's the best time to work out for weight management and also for sleep. This one particular study, 7 a.m., 1 p.m., or 7 p.m., morning, afternoon, or evening for weight management and sleep. They said 7 a.m. And so it doesn't have to be your full workout, but like 3 minutes of kettlebell, in the morning, or burpees, or whatever you're going to do, just to get your heart rate going first thing in the morning. So I do that. I brush my teeth. You're like, obviously everyone brushes their teeth. Why is that good for your brain? I actually brush my teeth with the opposite hand. Because what it does is, going back to that juggling study, we have a speed reading program that I teach. We have students in 195 countries, on average improve reading speed and focus comprehension 300%. And it's all measurable, right? So we have a lot of data. We find that the fastest readers tend to play musical instruments, which requires them to use both hands. They also tend to be left-handed also as well. There's some research that potentially suggests that we know if somebody has a stroke on their left side of their brain, if they're paralyzed, it'll manifest on the opposite side. These cross laterals, that one side of your brain controls the opposite side of your body. Research is suggesting using the opposite side of your body actually stimulates the opposite side of your brain also. So, which some people think that the right side is more creative, where left side is logical, sound, words, linear, but the right side is more emotive, more visualization. So using your left hand, not only hearing the words, but actually, experiencing them. But using your opposite hand also forces you. Remember I said how you do anything is how you do everything. It forces you to be present, which I think is a big challenge right now with children and adults. Like, nobody can maintain their concentration for any length of time. And, and so by using your opposite hand, it forces you to be present, because you can't be thinking about and doing other things while you're doing it, because it forces, because you've never done it before. It's uncomfortable. So you have to focus. And again, so that way you're focusing, you're building you're flexing your focus and concentration, your ability to be here right now, not thinking about, something in the future or thinking about something in the past. And then you're training that. So then you have focus when you're reading or having a conversation. And now notice, and then from there, I'll jump into an ice bath or a very cold shower. And then this is not, even though I met like Wim Hof 7 years ago, speaking at an event together, they've been doing this for ages, hundreds of years, right? Cold therapy and these different temperature therapy. I'll go from there into a sauna, or if I'm in a shower, I'll do cold, hot, alternate. But again, to get myself to do difficult things, because that way I could show up and go on stage or have that difficult conversation at work or do other things like that. And, I make a brain power smoothie. I notice the one thing I don't do is what everyone does. And I'm just, as a coach, I got to call people on their stuff, is touch your phone. And I have a video on Facebook, has 28 million views. It's about to cross. Just don't touch your phone the first half an hour a day. And I've been talking about this for ages. But the reason why is when you wake up, you're in this relaxed state of awareness. You're extremely suggestible, alpha, theta brainwave states. And if you pick up your phone, you're rewiring your brain for two things that are going to destroy your performance and your productivity. Number one, you're rewiring your nervous system to be distracted. Every ring, ding, ping, like, share, comment, cat video, this dopamine flood is training your brain to just be scattered. And then you wonder why you can't focus when you're studying, or you can't focus while you're in a meeting or on a Zoom or whatever. But the second thing that it's training your brain to do, which is almost as dangerous, not only is it rewiring your brain to be distracted first thing in the morning, you're rewiring your brain to be reactive. I mean, you're on the defense. You check your text messages, your social media messages, your voicemails, your emails, and all of a sudden you'd be fighting fires. One message could just, hijack your mood throughout the entire day. And nobody who is successful, happy, gives their agency, abroad, where Brendan Burchard has this quote saying, your inbox is nothing but a convenient organizational system for other people's agenda for your life. Your inbox is nothing but a convenient organizational system for other people's agenda for your life. So you're just reacting to things. And my message for everyone who's listening is be a thermostat, not a thermometer. Be a thermostat, not a thermometer. A thermometer, the only function of a thermometer, it just reacts to the environment. That's all it does. It just reacts. And you're not going to have any kind of quality of life if you're just reacting to everything. But a thermostat doesn't do that. It gauges the environment. It knows what's going on, but it sets the temperature, and then the environment is forced to react to it. And I feel like children need to learn. That's about responsibility, in terms of you as an entrepreneur also, what you've done with Spartan, you took the invisible, what was in your mind, and you made it visible for everybody else, and that really, I think is the process of creativity. Right? The future belongs to the creatives, where some jobs are going to machines, automation, artificial intelligence. What's not going to be, outsourced is what makes us human. And a big part of that are the things that we're creating on a daily basis. So those are just a handful of things I do and I don't do. So I think have your to-do list, but also have your not to-do list, top of your not to-do list. Don't touch your phone. Like for me in the morning, I'll write down 3 things I want to accomplish personally, and it's different each day. 3 things I want to accomplish professionally. And this is me doing a thought experiment saying, okay, I come back, at the end of the day, somebody asked me how my day was. And I was like, this was amazing. I crushed it today. And I'm like, okay, what had to happen in order for me to feel that way? Okay, here are 3 things personally. Here are 3 things like work-wise. And the thing is, I don't even touch my phone. Truth be told, I don't touch my phone until I try to get at least one of those things done. You know what I mean? Because I also think we're so addicted to technology, and I love technology. It allows what we're doing right now, right? I think that social media, all that could be a good thing, but technology is not good or bad. It's just how it's used. Fire, it's like fire. Fire is technology. It could cook your food or it could burn down your home, right? But here's the challenge: when you're picking up your phone because you're bored or out of pure habit, then the technology is a tool for you to use. But if you're picking up your phone, technology is using you. Then who becomes the tool? Then we become the tool, and that's not the goal, right?
I'm going to recap really fast. Wake up in the morning, if you're listening or watching this, and first thing you're going to do is make your bed. You good with that?
Yeah, I love it. I remember my dreams. I make my bed. I hydrate. I do some movement just because I want to get my heart rate going.
Touch the phone.
Don't touch the
Don't touch the phone. Get your exercise in 7 a.m.
or whatever time. It's just the idea was.
Come on, Jim. Let's stick with 7 a.m. I'm trying to get people up early.
Yeah.
Jim said he's the brain expert. 7 a.m. workout, ice cold shower, brush your teeth with your opposite hand or your foot. Even if you could do your foot, it's even more amazing, right? And last thing I want to touch before we head out, neuroplasticity. I was on the phone with as we were doing these kids camps with a neurosurgeon who said to the kids, I know you're going through a tough time. You're day 7 of day 14 right now. You want to quit. Between the ages of 8 and 26, it's imperative you finish hard stuff that you start. If not, we actually see as surgeons gaps in the brain. And I thought that was really interesting. So explain this idea. What is neuroplasticity?
So neuroplasticity is this, so our brain, right? We have all these brain cells called neurons, 100, they say about 86 billion of them. And for me, it's about making connections. Like Einstein didn't have a bigger brain than the average person. If anything, it was actually a little smaller. But there are certain parts of his brain were extremely connected, meaning they were very dense because he would do these thought experiments because he would challenge himself mentally. And because think about like a thread. One thread is one connection, but the more you reinforce it, because it's plastic, these neurons that fire together, they wire together. And then it becomes like a steel cable, if you will. And so
well, it's funny. The neurosurgeon said, he called them tracks. He said, you want to lay as many tracks as you can between 8 and 26 years old. And doing these hard things could be studying math, playing piano, but you got to do hard things. You got to stick it out, and you want to lay as many tracks as you can because you're going to have an advantage over other people.
Yeah, and I would say that in game theory, those who have the most options or in terms of the most options, the most flexibility will win, right? Everything else being equal. And so in setting those tracks allow you more flexibility and more power, especially at an earlier age before they become more set. We know that later on it gets a little bit more difficult to be able to change our lifestyle, change our personality, because we start getting wired for our thoughts start becoming habitual, meaning we have about 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day. I talk about in the book. The challenge is 95% of those thoughts are the same exact thoughts we had yesterday and the day before that. And how are we going to create a new life if we're thinking the same things every single day, right? About what's possible or what we deserve or whatever. Same thing gets wired, not only our thoughts, neuroplastic, but also the feelings that we're going into and feelings of celebrating our victories, feelings of also of pride that we do difficult things, feelings of gratitude rewires the brains also as well. And so our thoughts get wired, our feelings get wired, and so do our behaviors, our habits get wired. And so that's why doing it at an earlier age certainly is easier. It's not impossible at a later age because we know that neuroplasticity could happen, until the day we die. But certainly the earlier, like it just makes sense. If you teach children financial literacy, like how to save and invest money and be able to do all the study better and read better, like that, they're going to be able to take those same skills that are wired neuroplastic, into their whole life. And so, yes, absolutely. It's like you could think about it as wires or tracks or just walking in a field. If you're walking the same path over and over again, you start to create these grooves, right? That everything goes. Same thing with a stream. It starts going through the same thing. So if we can lay down those tracks early on of discipline, perseverance, consistency, and getting in the habit of showing up for ourselves, right? Doing those difficult things, then, will help. It'll be a lot easier to maintain those traits, 10 years later, 20 years later, and so on.
You're awesome. You basically just gave us the Jim Kwik seal of approval for Joe's crazy camps on the farm.
I'd love to go through one of your crazy camps, Joe.
I would love to have you at the farm. I'm adding just so you know, the curriculum for the next camp, I'm adding the making the bed part, the remembering the dreams part, the brushing the teeth with your feet part. I'm making a few edits, the gym, and I'll give you credit for those.
No, absolutely. People can find it all in the
Limitless, baby.
Yeah, people can find Limitless at limitlessbook.com. We were fortunate. It was an instant New York Times bestseller, #1 Wall Street Journal. And it's like during the when people were graduating, it was like one of there along with that Dr. Seuss book, all the places you will go, where like it was trending on Amazon top books. I think parents were gifting it to their kids because it's a reminder you could still be limitless in a limited world. This is a reminder of getting your power back.
If you have a 38-pound Limitless book, would be perfect for the camps because they could carry it the whole time.
Can I challenge everybody for a quick thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Take a screenshot. Here's the thing. You can't learn something, and knowledge alone is not power. You have to put into action. So I challenge everyone to take one small, simple step. Take a screenshot of this video or this podcast episode and post it online. Tag Joe, tag myself at Jim Kwik, KWIK, and share one thing you're going to do in the morning to jumpstart your brain so you can become more limitless. And so again, take a screenshot of the video of this podcast episode, tag us both so we see it. I'll repost some of my favorites, but in the description, share like one thing you're going to do to make progress towards a better brain and a brighter future.
I'm going to start brushing with my left hand, so.
I'll actually repost my favorites, and I'll actually send a copy of Limitless to one of my favorites.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Spartan Up. If you like the show, spread the word, tell your friends, share it on social, and tag us at Spartan, at Real Joe De Sena, and at Spartan Up Podcast. We'll be back next week with another Joe De Sena interview. And in the meantime, check out some of our new series, where we'll be talking about trail running, DECA for the gym crowd, and endurance. See you next week. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by True Form Runner. Conquer your next race with a complete training solution from Spartan and True Form. The Spartan True Form Trainer will redefine your running, improve your form, and reduce injury. Save 10% with the code SPARTAN10 at trueformrunner.com/Spartan. That's trueformrunner.com/Spartan.